Obi, thank you so much for coming on the program. Let's get to the New Telegraph newspaper. I can see you beaming with smiles. I'm not sure why, but it's like you're coping pretty good with the cold as you complained the last time. But let's get on with the New Telegraph newspaper. The big one, ambassadorial appointments. Shomole and Dume clash as Senate clears a mockery. Fani Kayode, Ikpe Azu, ex-INEC chair, others. What do you make of it? We've made a few of our comments and about it. What's yours?
Well, what I found a bit disturbing was this notion of bow and go. Yes, maybe there were some issues to do with protocol and process in the disagreement between Senator Oshiomhole and Senator Ndume. But the bottom line at the end of the day was the fact that they both supported the nomination and both were willing to clear the nominee. However, Senator Oshiomhole, on his own part, basically wanted to interrogate some of the things Reno had said in the past. And Senator Ndume said there's no petition. So that brings me to a question. What then is the purpose of screening if there is no public complaint? Jeff, you said, you gave the example that we should learn a lesson from this, that if we object to anybody who is nominated, we should make sure we write a petition. But my issue is the whole idea of screening by the National Assembly is to ensure that these people are fit for purpose. And I'm not sure you can determine that by any office they've held in the past or any public utterances. Okay, let's look, for example, in the case of ambassadors who are going to go and represent, who are going to be the front of the country overseas. They should be able to tell us a bit about their ideas about Nigeria's foreign policy. Look at all that's happening globally. Look at the issue of President Trump designating us as a country of particular concern. Never mind the fact that where these people are going to be posted to. But Nigeria's foreign policy could be brought to bear in any of the countries that we have representation. You might have to defend the country's public foreign policy stance in any instance. And so if we're not questioning or interrogating these people, for example, look at America's position towards us now. Rep. Riley Moore just went back to America and is about to deliver a report to President Trump that's an indictment of the insecurity situation in Nigeria. He visited IDP camps in Benue and came away horrified at the extent to which insecurity and violence is plaguing the Middle Belt and Nigeria in general. So there's also issues of things like ECOWAS, all of the West African countries and the various insurrections we are seeing and military interventions. We are seeing things like Nigeria fraternizing more closely with BRICS. So I would think that the foreign policy position of anybody nominated for an ambassadorship should be interrogated in depth. I don't like this idea of bow and go. Take, for example, Mr. Omokri, who was screened yesterday. Jeff, you mentioned issues earlier about nobody questions his intelligence or his competence, that the issues may surround his moral rectitude. I want to say that a lot of the things he said in the past against the president and against APC spoke to character and not competence. And I dare say, in the last 2.5 years, he cannot say in his mind that those questions he raised then have been resolved as of this date. So what Senator Oshiomhole was saying, that the president has a large forgiving heart, that Reno himself has seen, where in the past 2.5 years, he has seen that a lot of what he was saying then does not hold any water. That may be true in terms of the administrative competence and the reforms that are being done by the current administration, but it doesn't speak to the issues he raised about character. So I see some hypocrisy going on here, and I think his feet should have been held to the fire as everybody else, including Femi Fani-Kayode, and they should have been asked to clarify their positions as to the things they said then and how they feel about those things now. For example, Jeff, you mentioned Reno said in the past that the president, when he was protesting in London, that the candidate then was a drug dealer or a drug lord. Why don't we ask him today, do you still believe that? And if you don't, why? What are the things you have seen that make you think that is not so any longer? at the same time, many of the things that Femi Fani-Kayode said in the past as well, I think should have been publicly interrogated. This bow and go culture, I think, is disgraceful. I think it makes rubbish of the Senate's oversight function of there being a check and balance towards us getting the best possible representation, whether as ministers, ambassadors, or whoever it is they are screening. I don't like that bow and go thing. I don't like it at all.
All right, Mr. Akitobi, before we let you go on the New Telegraph, there's something I would like you to speak to quickly before my call is coming. At the very bottom of it, you see Nigeria, poor internet connectivity, elections' biggest challenge. That's credited to INEC, says some 176,000 polling units located in remote areas. FG to connect 23 million Nigerians to internet in unconnected area. I see this as pre-election excuse that we will not accept because this government has said that they targeted about 90% broadband penetration by, I think, 2027 or so. I need to look at that 80-page document. I know that Bosu Tijani has been working really hard when it comes to broadband penetration. You know, this broadband penetration, sometimes with politicians, is only a success story until there is election. Then suddenly it's not working again. So I think this one will not agree. They have to make it work. What do you make of it?
Well, they are already laying the foundation for BVAS and IREF to have shortcomings in 2027, and that's not really acceptable. Look, if you are dependent on a third party, there can always be issues or excuses. So if internet connectivity is coming from outside, anything can happen in a mechanical process. Let's not even look at mechanical. How about human? What makes you think there are no well-heeled individuals who can prevail on the networks to destabilize their connectivity for that period? I think the ultimate solution is that INEC needs to have its own backbone. I think INEC is big enough for the federal government to be able to sponsor it, to have its own proprietary network. Elections are too sensitive an issue to be dependent on third parties that can give you an excuse. It almost goes without saying that in Nigeria, when you subcontract or you farm out any such service, sensitive service, to a third party, anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible time. It's called Murphy's Law. So let us advocate. They can spend the money is available. They can find the money for INEC to have its own proprietary network to where there's no excuses, there's no depending on anybody. So it can now create its own internet penetration without having to depend on any of the other existing networks. That to me is the solution. Otherwise, the excuse will always still be there that, oh, the network went down. Oh, they didn't penetrate the riverine areas because they couldn't get a mast up somewhere. There's always an excuse. There's always something to say. So that's the solution. Give INEC its own proprietary network, and let's move on from there so that if there's any lapses, we know who to blame or whose feet to put to the fire on the fact that there were network issues.
You know, and that speaks to funding. I heard, a member of the civil society saying the other day upon confirmation of the new INEC chairman that the funding for INEC for the last election year, has not been completely released. And that speaks to some of the challenges that we're now seeing. We hope that, as we approach the next election cycle, and even indeed the staggered elections that are coming next, that situation would improve. Let's head over to the Guardian newspaper now. And this is an interesting one, Mr. Akitobi. Pricing, weak tourism infrastructure threaten $2 billion dirty December target. And you'll find that on page 6. Mr. Akitobi, the interesting thing is that Lagos is already boiling with dirty December. But should dirty December's high point be only in the commercial capital? What about the other states of the Federation? And that speaks to this headline on the front page of The Guardian. Mr. Akitobi.
Well, I've seen some preparations in other areas outside Lagos, like Owerri and Calabar and one or two metropolitan areas, where they are also preparing for a large influx. See, 30 December is driven largely by diaspora Nigerians who are coming home for the holidays, and they're bringing hard currency. And Lagos has taken advantage of that by coalescing around a lot of events that promote the festive season, and there's carnivals, there's concerts, there's street parties, there's all kinds of activities that seem to create a lot of excitement and buzz and fun around the festive season. However, the infrastructure that supports that type of tourism, Nigeria has a lot of potential for tourism, but we've not developed the necessary infrastructure. Part of what this Guardian story is talking about in terms of pricing is this thing called short-let apartments, which was what pretty much drove quite a bit of the tourism for December last year, to where Lagos raked in several billions in terms of revenue that came in. Well, you're looking at the short-let business today, and not only are they pricing in dollars, but they're also pricing out of the market. I'm hearing $9,000 for a two-bedroom flat from November to January, and some ridiculous amounts of money like that, that's pushing tourists back to hotels, which this notion of a short-let apartment where you have convenience, you can cook yourself, you're not restricted by the strictures of a hotel type thing, is part of the infrastructure that's encouraging tourism. There's issues of things at the airport, the difficulty of coming and going and clearing customs and getting in and getting out, transportation to and from the city. So there are things that make tourism in Nigeria still chaotic. It's still a chaotic sector. And when December comes, where a lot of people, I think the estimate is, I think Lagos, 500,000 individual influx for that period. And the numbers are staggering, to where if we don't have seamless services, accommodation, transportation, aviation, security, all of these various things play a role in how seamless the period will be. We don't have a doubt that we will have an influx of people. It's been traditional from the beginning that generally Nigerians save up money, Nigerians in diaspora save up money to be able to come home for the festive season and come and be with family. But this period now, insecurity is playing a role. People are scared to travel by road. So many of them are looking at local travel. However, the airlines prices have gone through the roof for even local travel. So that makes people begin to rethink this thing, that how am I going to make it work? I mean, I, for one, unfortunately happen to be out of the country at this time, but I'm missing 30 December. I was looking forward to it. But when I consider all of the issues, I would say we need to take a sample out of Lagos's book across the rest of the country, begin to try to rejig our tourism infrastructure to be a bit more efficient, a bit more seamless, a bit more, giving a bit more of peace of mind, so that we can go out and actually have a wonderful time without any concerns.
Amazing. It's very interesting, your own case, it's reverse. But I'm glad at least that we're having a conversation around having a piece of this huge Christmas pie. I mean, just the Christmas tree industry alone in the US is worth billions in that sense. So imagine all the others. So I'm glad it's a conversation we're having, and I really hope that we're able to tidy up all the other loose ends. But let's take a look at Vanguard newspaper. Mr. Kitobi, this is a scandalous story that the Vanguard newspaper leads with this morning. And you see, US seizes Nigerian-owned super tanker over alleged crude theft. It's a very, very interesting case, Mr. Kitobi. So it said that this super tanker called Skipper, very interesting name, right? Managed by a Nigerian company, but originally owned by a company in Marshall Islands. Now, what is very curious, Mr. Kitobi, is the authorities, that's in the US, say that the tanker was illegally flying the Guyanese flag at the time of its arrest. But it gets worse, because the Guyanese government said, well, this vessel is not even registered. We don't know about this vessel, so it is using our flag without authorization. Quite a messy one. But again, the US, we're finding the US in different things. In security, people ship up. Now in alleged crude oil thefts, maybe we'll make people ship up again.
Yes, it's quite possible. When you see this, the question you ask is, where were our authorities? How did this thing get past customs? How did it get crude oil that was not legally procured? How is it flying the flag of a country where the ship is not registered? It's really a big mess, actually, and has diplomatic implications. But it just continues to speak to the issue of corruption, because there's no way that could have happened if it's a Nigerian-owned vessel, that it could have stolen crude. It could be flying the flag of a different country that is not registered in, and that it could be sailing on the open seas illegally or not proper. It hasn't followed proper due process. So I think it probably requires quite a bit of a diplomatic solution, because if the U.S. has seized that vessel, they're going to definitely get to the bottom of what the issue was. And that's a huge capital investment. A vessel is not a small thing in terms of money. And also there's the crude that was on board. Who owns it? How much was it worth? What's going to happen to it? Is it a complete loss? Is it a NNPC stock? Is it Nigeria stock? Where is it coming from, and who owns it? And who is going to take responsibility? I'm sure that there were crew members on board. There's a captain of the vessel. He should be brought to task and made to answer questions. He's got to have somebody who gave him instructions and gave him a load to carry and gave him a registered ship to captain. So maybe from the very bottom we begin to investigate this, but it doesn't look good for our international image. As you said, we're already grappling with the US already looking askance at us based on this insecurity issue, and we've had an international reputation, whether rightly so or unjustifiably so, as being corrupt and being perpetrators of fraud in various sectors. So this will probably further embolden those who have stereotyped us. I think it's an overgeneralization, because I think the majority of Nigerians, the vast majority of Nigerians, are law-abiding, morally upright, hard-working people, and the one or two bad eggs who give us a bad name internationally is not any higher on average than any other country in the world. But when things like this happen, it reinforces that erroneous public perception that this is what Nigeria is all about. So I'm not happy about this. I think it doesn't paint us in a good light, especially where the US is involved again. I don't think it's good.
Yeah, Mr. Akintobi, I like the way you repeated that again and again. It is like we're trying to get out of one, we get into another. But we hope that this will be sorted as quickly as possible. We don't have much time. This Nigeria is also leading with an interesting one. I was just looking at it and smiling. Governor Fubarawa has defected. The ping pong of their political shenanigans between the Rivers State House of Assembly has started yet again, where everybody is now throwing blame at each other. Fubara said, it's not me that is supposed to organize the meeting. The House of Assembly members said, we've met a couple of times. He's spending without our approval. He violated all terms of the peace accord. Rivers, what's the way forward? Anyway, Mr. Akintobi, we'll discuss that at another time. But for now, we'll let it be. Thank you so much. Enjoy Dirty December in London.
It doesn't compare. There's no such thing.
No,
everybody's indoors because of the cold. So Nigeria is where it's happening. That's where Dirty December is.
Just put something in your mind. Say, this is Dirty December London edition from Lagos to London. You know, so just look for to convince yourself.
With love.
Thank you, Mr. Akintobi.
My pleasure always. Good morning.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we have a big question. And we're going to spend time to interrogate our questions. So we have panelists from across Africa who are going to help us make sense of the big question we will be asking today. Because when we look at outcomes of governance as against what the expectation of the people are in terms of social contract, and how these leaders continue with their ways despite the outcomes of what we see in terms of governance, we begin to ask a question. Do Africans really elect their leaders? Because across Africa, you get to see, it looks like leadership is detached from the expectation of citizens. The leaders are saying one thing, the citizens are saying the other. It may not be widespread, it may not be all over the place, but it's significantly widespread. So you're seeing all of these coups happening and people rejoicing. So do Africa really elect her leaders? That's a question I want to interrogate today on the program in just a moment. Stay with us.